You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX, and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business with your Hot Options Report for Tuesday, January 20th. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the Options Insider Radio Network that hopefully all of you are listening to on your favorite podcast device or player of choice. Of course, make sure you're checking out our friends over there at thehotoptionsreport.com if you want the latest and the greatest in the world of equity options info. We really just scratched the surface here on the show. So you can carve up the options market on your own. You can't beat the data. You sure as hell can't beat the price. Thehotoptionsreport.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires as we get on out to see what is lighting up the tape out there in the options market today. Was it a hot day? You know, given all the action out there with all the red on the screen and all the concern about Greenland and geopolitics, you might be forgiven for expecting a little bit more than 485,000 contracts, yet that's what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. That gets us to our old pal Palantir. Palantir selling back below the 170 handle again, closing 168.58 off $2.39, or about 1.4%. That's after rallying most of the way through midday. So from the high of nearly 172, obviously selling off more. So Greenland taking all the markets and pulling them back down with them again, putting up 485,000 contracts for the number 10 spot today, and the hot option in Palantir, 24, almost 25,000 of the 190s. These are expiring not this week, though. These are expiring actually on February 6th. So you got a few weeks, which probably explains the price here. $3.40 for the 190s. That sounds a little bit rich. Then again, they went up on the bid. This wasn't opening trades. So it looks like someone might be overwriting the 190s, in which case, $3.40. Looking pretty decent, at least right now, listeners, as we keep climbing to the number 9 spot. Was our old pal strategy looking decent today? The answer was no. Closing today, 160.23 off $13.48, or 7.75%. So they came for the monster today, putting up 486,000 contracts. So just managing to barely sneak past number 10 for the number 9 spot, the hot option in the monster today. 17,000 of the 195s. These are expiring this week. Average price 19 cents. This has the whiff of closing paper. Looks like somebody getting the heck out of Dodge while there is still 19 cents to be had. I'm thinking they sold these this morning because these probably were not trading for 19 cents at the end of the day. As we keep climbing, listeners, to number 8, a name that seems to be shaking off the Greenland concerns. It's Micron, closing in the green today, if ever so slightly, closing 365 exactly, up 2.25, or about 2/3%. If you've been following Micron, you know they had a hell of a run at the end of last week and continuing a little bit of a green on the screen today. They got as high as 381.5 earlier in the session. So if you want glass half empty, they obviously came back off those highs, but still managing to close green on the day, putting up 518,000 contracts for the number 8 spot today, the hot option in good old MU. 24, almost 25,000 of the 380s. Average price for these, nearly $7 now. That might sound painful, and certainly given where it closed, it is. But they did get there earlier in the day. Pretty 381.56 was actually the high earlier in the session today. So Micron had some moments. Maybe they flew a little bit too close to the sun. We'll keep an eye on these. Looks like paper might have been selling these, in which case, if you sold these for nearly $7, it was an opening trade, then you're looking pretty good, at least for right now. As we keep climbing to the number 7 spot, listeners. This is Amazon. Were they looking good today? The answer was no. They came for Amazon. Closing 231 exactly, selling off $8.12 or nearly 3.5%. So just a straight drubbing for the Amazonians today, putting up 571,000 contracts for the number 7 spot. Today, the hot option in Amazon, 27,000 of the 235s. Average price for these, about $2. And once again, we did get there, got to 235.09 earlier in the session. So these were ever so briefly in the money. That $2 looks a lot better then than it does now, obviously. We'll keep an eye on these as we keep climbing to number 6. You know, it wasn't all gloom and doom out there. Few names managed to close green, including AMD, closing 231.92, up a whopping 9 cents today. So not much on the green side, but they did manage to close green. They did get as high as nearly 240 today. So once again, selling off in the latter portion of the session, putting up 607,000 contracts for the number 6 spot. The hot option in AMD today, 36, almost 37,000 of the 235s. Average price for these, 516. Same deal. They were looking really good when the stock was nearly 240. Not quite so good right now, but we'll keep an eye on these as we keep going up to number 5. This is our old pal, Intel. Intel also shugging off the Greenland concerns, listeners, closing $48.56, putting up 652,000 contracts for the number 5 spot out there today, listeners. The hot option in Intel today, a bit of an interesting one, actually. It's about 34, almost 35,000 of the March doubles, the March 55. So an out-of-the-money March contract taking the top spot as opposed to all the weekly upside we always see. Average price for these, about $3. So 55 strike. Looks like paper might have been selling these, listeners. It was an opening trade, in which case maybe you like this as a bit of an overwrite. The stock was just $20 not too long ago. I'm sure a lot of people will let some fly at $55, let alone 58, which is obviously the break-even price of these. We'll keep an eye on Intel as we keep climbing to the number 4 spot. This is the name a lot of people have their eyes on today. This is good old Netflix, closing today 87.26, off 74 cents, or about 0.85%, putting up 985,000 contracts for the number 4 spot. They are having earnings after the bell, so again, a lot of eyes fixated on them right now. And the hot option in Netflix today, 71,000 of the pars, the 100 calls. Average price for these, nearly 50 cents. These are expiring this week, and this was opening flow. So it looks like old school rolling of the bones to the upside here. And looks like, at least in the early blush after the earnings, if you were buying these, that was not the right way to go. The stock is below $83 in the after hours now, $82.94 off another $4.32, or nearly 5%. So rolling the bones on the pars to the upside, at least for right now. Looks like a bit of an ouchie as we keep climbing to number 3. Was it a bit of an ouchie day for the fruit company? The answer was yes. This is the most red we've seen on the screen in Apple in some time, selling off $8.83, or about 3.5%, closing 246.70, putting up 1.05 million contracts for the number 3 spot out there today. The hot option in the fruit company, 65, nearly 66,000 of the 255s. Average price for these, $1.05. These are expiring at the end of the week. Looks like paper might have been selling these as well. This was an opening trade as well. So once again, maybe a bit of a covered call. Would you let some stock fly, about $8 higher or so out there, listeners? I think a lot of people would, especially given where Apple closed today. As we keep climbing to the number 2 spot, it's our old pal Tesla. Just another rough day for them, listeners. Closing $419.25, off 18.25, or about 4.2%. So those 500 certainly seem like a distant memory, at least for right now. Putting up 1.55 million contracts. So actually a somewhat light day volume-wise for Tesla. And the hot option out there, 86,000 of the 425 puts, a now in-the-money put. Average price for these, about $7.20. So once again, if you bought these and rode them into the close, you're feeling pretty good about yourself right now. But are you feeling pretty good about the number 1 spot today, listeners? You know what it is. It's Nvidia. And of course, if these trade wars are ratcheting up again, then it's not going to be great news for Nvidia. That was reflected in the stock today, selling off $8.16 to close 178.07, off about almost 4.5%. So rough day out there for Nvidia, putting up exactly 2.00 million contracts changing hands in Nvidia today. Don't see those round numbers very often, even though that is somewhat light paper for Nvidia out there. The hot option in Nvidia today, almost 96,000 of the 180s. So slightly out of the money calls, expiring this week, average price $3.01. So maybe you think this is a little bit overdone, in which case you want to load up on these. It did get as high as 182.38 earlier today. So again, these 180s certainly looking a heck of a lot better earlier in the session than they did at the end. Would you still be nibbling on these, listeners, or is 180 by the end of the week a bit of a bridge too far for you? Hit us up, let us know. And that is going to do it for us on your Hot Options Report for Tuesday, January 20th. Remember, check out our friends over there at thehotoptionsreport.com. If you want to carve up the options market however you choose, it's all there for you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, another episode of the Hot Options Report. And stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.